So, how did I become a teacher for a month? Somehow, I ended up teaching a class, something I never thought I'd get to do, much less enjoy. Let's go back to May.
I had graduated from a 2-year degree of 2D animation, amongst the first generation to do so from a public school. We presented our reels and received our diplomas, spent some time chatting up the sponsors at the graduation ceremony, and distributed enough business cards to make a trading card deck, even knowing it might not end up anywhere. Still, hopes were high that somehow at least one of us would be offered an internship or some sort of temporary job. I'm uncertain if anyone got offers, but I surely did. My reel was still very much incomplete. I had rushed to finish it and focused instead on my concept art illustrations for the portfolio. I wasn't satisfied with the reel. I thought it seemed mediocre, but I just didn't have time to do better, to do more. A couple of weeks after the fact, it was certainty that I would get no callbacks or contacts. I did get a couple of emails from people asking to stay in contact in case I ever needed job advice or anything. We all got those. I was a bit bummed, I admit. I wanted the chance to be offered at least an internship in a pre-production position as a concept artist or something of the like. I got over it though, and I told myself to just continue working on portfolio as planned. I knew the industry here is very small. There were barely any chances of me getting a job here, for a company here. Some time later, some of us received a message from the university about an opportunity for active university students to teach courses with a basic salary for 1 month. It was a program offered by the School of Communications to give students a chance to give classes to the public on subjects they were knowledgeable in. We would propose a subject to teach, design all the program, scheduling, the curriculum, everything. We would do everything by ourselves. I leapt at the chance. Not just for the pay, but knowing it was a chance to get my name out there. I thought about what I could offer, and 2 ideas came to mind. A basic Japanese course or an illustration course. Japanese was out of the question because it wasn't a subject that had anything to do with the School of Communications. Rather, it was the School of Modern Languages. So, I wrote a short proposal explaining what the class would be about, how long, and how many assignments there would be. I recorded it and sent it. Then waited, and waited, and waited, and waited some more. And then an email came. Your proposal has been accepted. Congrats! You'll join others who will also be giving classes and attend informative sessions to guide and revise your class plans. And that was it. I was in. It wasn't a professional job per se. We were still students teaching, and it was minimum pay. But it wasn't a small amount as I thought it would be. It was actually pretty decent, going by the fact we were students with 0 or some experience in teaching. I, in particular, had not had previous experiences teaching, and while it wasn't a serious job, I intended to take it very seriously. The moment I got confirmation of my proposal's acceptance, I started researching for class plans. I made lists of themes I wanted to cover in class, exercises I thought were helpful, videos I found useful for certain subjects, looked for my old notes from classes I took years ago, took notes from some of my art books, watched videos from digital painting courses that I myself took or watched at some point before, and tried to learn from them a little bit on how to teach. It is one thing to know and do and make, and another is to teach others how to know and do. I condensed all the information I found, selected all I thought to be essential for the students to be able to progress on their own, and wrote the class curriculum. Or, well, the program schedule, however you want to call it. I prepared for 20 hours of class time instead of the minimum 10 hours the program required. I knew the pay would not increase at all, but I refused to make it shorter. Teaching illustration basics, narrative illustration basics, in 10 hours seemed impossible to me. I wouldn't be able to communicate all I wanted to in 10 hours, and I wanted to teach them properly, not in a half-assed way. So the final schedule looked a little something like this. Week 1, storytelling and digital composition. Week 2, design and color. Week 3, perspective. Week 4, stylization and reference. And week 5, still stylization and reference. On week 2, they would turn in their first narrative illustration, which had to be in values only, although they could also make a color version if they wanted to. On week 3, they would turn in their second narrative illustration, which had to be colored, but not necessarily with all the shadow and light aspects included. Could be a simple coloring. And on week 5, they would turn in their final narrative illustration, a complex, finished one. The final name of the 5-week course I would teach was Digital Narrative Illustration. With the schedule done, it was time for me to summarize all the information I gathered and make a presentation for each class day. The whole document ended up having 120 slides. For 5 weeks, 2 classes each? Sounds like a lot, right? But I relied more on images to explain than text, of course, so it was mostly a lot of pictures. I did suddenly have an appreciation, more appreciation for my teachers. There is a lot of work that goes into preparing class material. By the time classes started, I was nervous. I had done all the research, all the work necessary to get it right, but I was still nervous because how could I be worthy of teaching? Was I good enough? What if they thought me an imposter, a fraud? What if they thought me inferior for not graduating yet or being younger than them? What if I couldn't teach them? What if I couldn't give them advice? What if I couldn't answer their questions? Thankfully, by the end of the first class, I felt comfortable and confident that I would be able to answer the questions and manage any issues that came up. I'd be officially giving virtual classes to people from 16 upwards, amongst them a couple of adults in their 40s. They say that teachers learn as much from their students as the students do from the teachers. I found this to be true. I had been in a rut for a long time, blocked by my insecurities and fear. But teaching, answering questions, explaining and repeating concepts I already knew over and over helped me find a foothold once again, and I started to climb out of the block. I even motivated them with advice from my own experiences navigating art blocks and managed to help a number of them who were also blocked. I started looking forward to every class and would enjoy every interaction with the students as they would comment on the day's exercise or ask me questions about the subject we were covering that day. My confidence grew and I felt sure in myself. Perhaps there would be an issue I couldn't solve, but that was okay. I could answer the questions as best as I could. The only thing I could do really was my best. I never imagined I'd find teaching to be so fulfilling, but turns out I have a good personality for teaching, apparently. According to all the students themselves, a couple who were university friends of mine, I have a very appropriate teacher personality. Some even went as far as to call me a very charismatic teacher, kind and approachable, but firm when necessary. I felt very flattered and happy, honestly, very glad to receive those positive comments. I was enjoying teaching so much. For the students to tell me that they enjoyed it too, it made my day. Even though the assignments were not compulsory, because these classes given by students don't have grading, most of them did every single exercise and assignment, or at least tried to do as many as possible. it showed me that they were interested and motivated by the class. Even though many didn't have that much time, they still tried their best to do the exercises. It was more heartwarming than I expected to see my students doing the work and asking questions and showing up as much as they could. As far as first experiences go, I think this was brilliant. It was my first time teaching, and while I was nervous initially, I grew comfortable doing it and even looked forward to it. I hope the students liked it as much as they say they did, and I hope they continue to put into practice what they learned. What would I do differently? Well, I'd definitely not make class materials changes or additions or more in the same week. No time for that. I'd prepare class material at least 3 months before to be able to do it calmly and not worry about time constraints or mistakes or being busy with other things. I'd do some more research on how to make software accessible in settings for people who have issues like color blindness and loss of vision and other vision-related issues. I would give advice on how to come up with stories of your own for those that have trouble thinking of ideas. While the classes are about illustration, they are about narrative illustration, so I think giving more story writing tips for the people that are interested in comics or illustrating their own stories, or generally people that have trouble thinking up of stories or moments in stories to draw, I think adding those story writing tips to the curriculum could really help.
Teaching overall taught me how to be a better artist. Ironically, the more I tried to help my students, the more I somehow ended up helping myself. Sort of like reverse psychology. By repeating concepts over and over and motivating them to get past obstacles, I heard my own voice telling me that I could do it too. And it reminded me that I need to be patient with myself. Just like I can be kind and patient to others, I deserve to be kind and patient with myself too. As artists, we are often extremely critical of ourselves, and it crushes us. I will not forget my first teaching experience. It reminded me of important concepts and rules I had forgotten about, sparked inspiration and new ideas in my mind, and lit a small fire of motivation and hope. Just a small flame of confidence, really, that maybe my dreams are attainable too. That I too can live from my creativity. So, come along with me then, as I continue to traverse the artist's way. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!